At the beginning of the film, a man named Syracuse is fishing in his boat when he discovers a young woman entangled in his net. He resuscitates her after realizing she is still alive. She calls herself Ondine and refuses to be taken to the hospital, not wanting to be seen by anyone else. He shelters her in a camper trailer house that belonged to his late mother. He left her inside to attend to something, which makes him late for picking up his daughter Annie, who uses a wheelchair and lives with his ex-wife Maura. During Annie's checkup, he tells her a story about a fisherman that catches a woman out of the sea. Annie explains the woman could be a magical selkie. Selkies are mythological creatures that can shapeshift between seal and human forms by removing or putting on their seal skin. Annie receives a new power chair from the CRC, an establishment for people in disability, and upon returning home is greeted by Maura's boyfriend Alex. Maura flips off Syracuse for missing the doctor, who had news on a kidney match for Annie. The next morning, Syracuse sees Ondine by a stream, washing clothes and singing in a language he doesn't understand. She joins him on his boat for work that day. At first, all the lobster pots come up empty, but when Ondine begins to sing, every pot is full. Still wanting to stay hidden, Ondine refuses to accompany Syracuse to the fish market where he sells the lobsters. He buys her a dress but tells the store clerk it's for Annie to wear when she's older. When Syracuse picks up Annie from her school, he continues the fisherman story by explaining how the woman sings to the fish for him to catch, a song in a language he has never heard before. Annie states that Selk is the language of the Selkie. Syracuse stammers that his lobsters hear her sing, which makes Annie curious as to whose story this is, and she secretly follows him to his place. When Syracuse asks how long she will stay, Ondine says it is up to him. He happily replies forever and happily ever after, like the fairy tale he has been building with Annie, who watches them without being noticed. Annie is seen back home studying all her new library books on seals and selkies. Alex says selkies are Scottish creatures, but the one Annie saw is not. Syracuse frequently bothers the local priest during confession, as there are no Alcoholics Anonymous meetings in town. Although he is an alcoholic, he has been sober for some time. He shares a recurring nightmare of attending Alex's funeral and reuniting with Maura, who still struggles with her drinking. When the priest tries to steer the conversation away, Syracuse confesses that he pulled a woman out of the water with his net and kept her, reminding the priest that he is bound to secrecy. Ondine is shown alone, tidying up the place, then tries her new clothing as if the experience was a first, especially when she stretches leggings over one splayed hand so it looks webbed. The next day, Annie sees Ondine swimming and approaches her on the dock. They bond as Annie tells her about selkies and ostensibly Ondine herself, which Ondine goes along with, kissing Annie goodbye before the child goes back to her mother. Syracuse goes in the library asking for books about selkies, but discovers that Annie took them all. Annie runs into some neighborhood kids showing off their bicycles and lets one of the kids play with her power chair before it shorts out driving into water. The kids call Annie a spaz and abandon her to push it back home, where she finds Alex drinking beer. As Alex dries out the batteries, Annie asks again about selkies, and he tells her they come from his homeland, Outer Hebrides. However, Ondine doesn't speak like him. Syracuse takes Ondine fishing again, letting her steer the boat, but when a fisheries board patrol boat speeds by, she quickly hides. As he pulls up the net, Ondine starts singing again, and it comes up overflowing with salmon, which couldn't have been caught by trawling. When the patrol boat returns to check for illegal gill netting, the guards discover dry gill nets, and Ondine hidden among them. Relieved to see she isn't invisible, as he had begun to wonder if he was dreaming, Syracuse watches as the guards accept her explanation about the catch. He heads to the harbor to sell the fish, where Ondine draws everyone's attention, including a dark-haired man seemingly searching for her. Later, Syracuse takes her shopping for clothes and they run into Annie, who helps Ondine choose outfits. Meanwhile, curious onlookers gather outside the store window, captivated by Ondine's striking beauty. Later, Syracuse wants to pick up Annie for local regatta festivities, but Maura says she already left. Ondine gets another surprise visit from Annie and sees the house has been cleaned. Learning that Annie can't swim, they both play in the shallow water, where Ondine finds something that Annie thinks is her seal coat, and they bury it in the greenhouse. Annie wants Ondine to stay for 7 years, unless the Selkie husband claims her back and shares this with her dad as they all boat into town. Ondine warns Annie that she isn't Selk and can't grant wishes. Upset, Annie pretends to have brake failure to throw herself off the pier to test Ondine's ability to breathe underwater. And Ondine jumps into her rescue. They bring Annie back to Maura and Alex, who share with Annie that a man was asking for Ondine. This gives Annie a nightmare about the Selkie husband coming. Back in the house, Syracuse explains he's called Circus the Clown because he was an alcoholic like Maura. He stopped drinking for Annie, yet custody went to her mother. Back in the confessional, Syracuse tells the priest he sinned with Ondine the night before and fears the good luck she brings since he lost hope long ago. As he leaves, the unknown man approaches him about Ondine, and Syracuse ignores him. He brings Annie home from checkup, but she is locked out since Maura and Alex are drinking in a pub. Annie asks to be left with them. Syracuse returns to find the house has been ransacked and Ondine hiding nearby. He wants Ondine to stay and asks her to wish the man away, but her only wish is for Annie not to be sick. Meanwhile, Ondine's man is searching town, driving with rage, causing an accident with Maura, who was drunk driving. Alex is killed, thrown through the windshield. Ondine and Syracuse follow Annie to the hospital and learn she is getting an immediate kidney transplant from Alex, who opted to be a donor. The man is also brought to the hospital and asks Ondine why she speaks their language, as they both don't belong here. After Alex's wake, Syracuse and Maura both get drunk. Maura insists that Ondine, now hiding on his boat, is bad luck and urges him to get rid of her. Drunk and overwhelmed, Syracuse takes Ondine to a nearby island, convinced she will haunt him forever because humans and Selkies don't belong together. As dusk falls, some driftwood creates the illusion of a seal's tail in Ondine's shadow, and she dives into the sea, swimming toward the seals on Seal Rock. The next morning, the priest wakes a despondent Syracuse, and he brings Annie home from the hospital. Annie reassures him, saying Ondine will return because she left something behind. While Annie watches a Sigur Rós performance on TV, Syracuse recognizes the songs as the ones Ondine sang. Realizing the truth might be at Seal Rock, he goes there to confront her. At first, Ondine claims she is a sea creature who buried her seal coat to stay with a family she loves. But she soon reveals the real story. She is a Romanian drug mule. Her partner, Vladic, was evading the Coast Guards when she jumped into the sea with a backpack of heroin. Unable to swim, Vladic left her to float in the water until Syracuse rescued her. Syracuse brings Ondine back to Annie, where they are ambushed by Vladic and another gunman that Annie thinks want the seal coat. Everyone goes to the greenhouse to dig it up, but find nothing because Annie moved it. Ondine promises to stay with Annie, who reveals the bundle was moved to a lobster pot. As they pull up the pot, Annie reminds Ondine that she is a Selkie, yet Vladic isn't, and Ondine trips Vladic overboard by pulling on the rope he is standing on. He drowns going after the falling lobster pot pushed back in by Annie. Syracuse throws the other Romanian into the water, disarming him, and the Romanian is arrested ashore, along with Ondine, who faces deportation. Annie is seen making a confession to the priest, who is to wed Syracuse and Ondine, completing the fairy tale how Selkie women often find unexpected happiness with a landsman. Thank you for watching.